Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my virtual class where I teach coding on Scratch. And as you can see from my interface, I have displayed a snake game where I've written quite a number of codes on how to have this game complete. So I'll take you real quick. And as you can see, I've written sprites. So we have Sprite 1, Sprite 2, Sprite 3, Sprite 4. And if you want to know how I came about this Sprite, you simply come with me to choose Sprite. Instead of choosing from the default sprites, I go to Paint. When I click on Paint, I'll go to the vector where I will choose from these options. I'll choose a rectangle. I can choose any color here, and I'll draw at the middle of that, and I choose the color to change. I want it to look like, depending on the character I'm using. So since snake that is common is a green one, so I'll choose a green color and change it like that. So that's how I created all these sprite 1 to 4. Now we have sprite 5, but this is not very useful. I was just using this to explain to you how I came about them. So I created all these sprites using the vector. So I'll delete that and I'll take it back to the codings where I have written quite a number for my sprites. So sprite 1, as you can see, we have written codes from motion, looks, sound. Unfortunately, I've not used sound up to this stage. Events, control, sensing, operators, variables, and my blocks. So I'll take you through how I came about them. So the first stack of codes I used here was when the green flag is clicked to control the movement of the snake, and then that is on events. So when you come to event, you pick a code, for instance, like in this case, you pick when the green flag is clicked. I'll come again to events and then control, and then use forever. So these actions are supposed to be repeated forever until the time you choose to end your game. And then we have another option on the control, which is going to guide us on more functions or control on the snake. So we're going to add that inside the forever code. Then we are going to use sensing to control the movement of the snake from one point to another. So we're going to use keys to control the movement of the snake from one point to another. So when a certain key is pressed, we will come to sensing. We choose when a certain key is pressed, you place it inside that, like that. Then you choose which key you want to use to control your snake. So we have up arrow, we have down arrow, we have the right arrow key, we have the left arrow key. Generally what we call the cursor movement keys on the computer keyboard, or what we call the arrow keys. So you can decide to choose either the right arrow, then you give it a direction you want to use. So I will choose on motions, pointing direction. So we are going to look at pointing direction, submit, point in direction. Then we place it inside if. Then we will be working with the direction in terms of angles. So we're going to duplicate this, then bring it down just below the stack, then we shall have it looking that way. So we're going to change this. Since we use the right arrow, we are going to change this to the down arrow, the left arrow, and the left arrow is supposed to go with the -90, since the right arrow is at 90. So we're going to add a negative there. We're going to duplicate the two stacks to have 4, so that we can have both the upper and the downer arrow. So we're going to change this to upper arrow, which we are going to have at 0 degrees, and then the next stack we're going to change to the downer arrow, which we are going to have at 180. So typically that is how we're going to control the movement of the snake from one point to another: left, right, center, up, down. So we're going to have motion for it. Here we're going to use motion 10 steps and place it right down here, but we're not going to use 10 steps, so we're going to create variables. So when you come to variables, you will have speed. If you want to know how to create variables, you simply click here. You'll have this option, so you can type your variable speed like that, then you click OK to accept that. So that is what we have. As you can see from the screen, is already indicating the speed at which the snake will be running. So you're going to drag this and place it where we have the 10 steps. So with that, we shall be ready to have the snake moving from one point to another. So since I had written that stack of block, I was just explaining for someone who is interested to know how to get the codes. So I will do away with that and explain to you the second stack of block which I have up here. When the green flag is clicked, set size to 20. The size of the snake, if I choose to use 100%, the snake will be as big as the Omiri snake, if you ever heard about the Omiri snake, or the anaconda. Those who were watching the anaconda movies, you know the size. So if I choose to use 100%, it will be as big as anaconda. So I choose to use 20% to make the snake a little bit of reasonable size. So this is about just making the size, or you can simply come to size and type the size you want down here instead of using the stack of code. So that is what I used here, and we go to another stack of code that I use. In that case is go to x0 and y0. So it is upon us to choose. When we move from one point to another, it is us to take it with using the arrow keys that we have set, as you saw earlier when I was writing the first code. So we're going to use go to x0 and y0. Then you set the speed simply from control. From variable we have the set speed, then we have a set of columns. So in this case we have the speed as indicated, so it is upon you to choose what variable are you going to use here. So in this case, if I choose the speed, and as you can see in my stack of codes it is 6, if I add the speed of the snake to be maybe 10 or 12, that means the snake will be moving at a very high speed. So if you're not quick to control using the arrow keys, you might not earn yourself a point. So I used 6 to be a reasonable speed for my junior students. Seniors can use the highest speed, maybe 20, but it will be moving very fast. So that's why I use set speed to 6. Then set clone duration. How did I come about clone duration? I went to make variables, then I cloned the snake so that every time you change it from one point to another, it does increase the length. So every time maybe it taps on the next sprite that is the target, the length increases. For those who have had an access to this old technology that was in the mobile phones, we had a snake game in those phones, so I believe you might relate very well to this. So the clone thing we have done here is just to make the snake grow from this initial size to the size that the game continues with. Then we have the third uh, stack of codes. When the green flag is clicked forever, create a clone of myself. So this is where the real cloning happens. So it is the same snake, but the size keeps on enlarging or increasing. All these are on variables, and on control we have, as you can see, maybe let me just take it a little bit slow, create clone of myself right here. So you will just click on this tag and bring it inside the forever code to have that code done over time until the time you choose to stop the game. Then we have when I start as a clone, wait a clone duration second, delete this clone. So why did I use this? When you come to control, we have when I start a clone, create a clone of myself, delete this clone. So in this case I used when I start a clone, then wait for clone duration. So after maybe the snake has cloned itself, then it automatically deletes again, then it starts all over again. That's why in this case I use repeat forever, then clone myself. So as it clones, there's another stack of codes that deletes the cloning. Then the last stack of the first sprite is when the green flag is clicked, we have the forever code, the if code, then touching the edge, and set speed. In this case we have options, so we are using the speed to 0, and broadcast game over pops up. But I will again tells you how we came about the game over in the next 2 or 3 sprites. So these are the codes of the first sprite, that is the snake, the main sprite in this game. So the second sprite is the part that the snake is supposed to tap to grow itself or to earn you a score or a point. So we have when the green flag is clicked, set the size of what the snake is supposed to tap to earn your point or to grow its length. Then go to random position. So the sprite will be juggling from one position to another. So that's why we're going to control the snake at least to get to it and tap it and earn a point. Then we have the forever function, touching the sprite. So the snake is supposed to touch the sprite. The second sprite is supposed to touch on the snake. Go to random position, change clone duration by 2. So in this case we use 0.2 in a case that if a certain a number of times the snake touches the sprite 2, at least it earns you a score. And then we used the start sprite as indicated here. So we have the green flag clicked, go to X0 and Y0. Remember, we used that on the snake. Then it will hide itself. Set a ghost. When you click on the menu arrow, you will have quite a number of options, but for this case, we chose to use a ghost. Effect by 100. So this is the limit. So when you're writing a game over script, any number that you multiply is supposed to give you 100. That is up here. So we repeat. When you come to events, let me just take you there. When you come to events, control, we have repeat 10 times. So I used this, but I changed 10 to 20, then multiply, change ghost effect by -5. So if I multiply 20 by -5, I'll get 100. So any number, if I choose to use 10 here, I will use -10 here to get 100. So it must be matching with the total set ghost effect up here. So that is the third sprite. And the fourth sprite we wrote was the game over, the message itself. So let me just click there. It's okay. So we have, when the green flag is clicked, hide variables. Then we use hide. This is on looks right here. So it's supposed to hide the scores, like even this speed is supposed to be hidden. So we have, when I receive game over message, it shows down here as it indicates 0, shows variable, shows score. Then we have, when the green flag is clicked, repeat forever. Show. Then we have some magical numbers here, they're just random numbers. When you multiply minus, then you get your score. So let me just do away with this speed that is popping up on the top left of my black screen. Variables. So I'll do away with this. There. So let me click here and show you what happens. So I said if you play this game, you will see the snake running all through. The size is too small. If it reaches the edge and there is nothing happened, your score remains 0, as you can still see. But if we run that and control the snake to tap the second sprite, you see the next snakes growing. You can see that. So it's juggling from one position to another. That is the random so I'm controlling the snake using the arrow keys just to move it from one place to one position to another. The snake can still pass through itself. There's no big deal about that. But remember, for the mobile phones, once the snake touches its body, that was the end of it. So we can still write the codes to read that way, but for now it can still pass through itself. I will tell you how, and just to let you know what I mean, you can see that. But you can see the length has grown over some time. So if I let the game die, you will see the score changed from 0 to 13,068. So if you want to know much about the scratch coding, please holler at me. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.